Good day, everyone. Welcome to today's class. And in today's class, we are going to talk about bi-directional communication with sockets.io. Now, if you notice, before now, everything we do, we have to make a request on Postman before we get a response, which is kind of one-sided because let's take, for example, if you were trying to build a chat app, and then the chat app, you built it in such a way that so if you're building a chat app using that architecture, right, what will happen is maybe the user will have to be pulling data from the back end every time. So maybe every 2 minutes the user will make a get request to the back end to check if there's any new message, while if the user is sending a message, that the user will make a normal post request, and then the recipient will have to be pulling. So imagine if there are like 100 recipients, right? And all these recipients are making get requests to the back end to check if there are new messages each time they are online. That will be a whole lot of stress on the back end, you get. So in order to solve that problem where there is need for bi-directional communication, you can use what is called WebSockets. Now, WebSockets is used for real-time bi-directional communication, which means the server, right, can actually emit requests to the users, right? And then the users can also emit requests or send requests to the back end at the same time. Okay, so that's bi-directional. It's not just only from the user to the back end, right? And then WebSocket is bare bones. So which means if you want to do things like automatic retries, and some other things, you have to do them manually, like you have to do them from scratch, right? But one good thing with socket.io is socket.io is built on top WebSocket, and it abstracts some parts of WebSocket that makes it difficult for communication. Uh, Makes it maybe a little bit, yeah, should I say difficult for communication, and also some things are abstracted. Like for example, making retries when you're disconnected, right? That is abstracted on, or yeah, that is implemented and abstracted on sockets.io. So you don't have to go and sit to write the code to make um reconnections, right? You just specify the number of reconnections that can be done. So that's if maybe, for example, maybe network is bad, and your call does, you don't want your this thing, you don't want your communication to drop or something, or your connection to between the client, the client and the server to drop, right? So what you might want to do at that time might be to do like retries. So that's just one of the things that socket.io makes easy for us. So let's see how we can already start using socket.io to make those kind of communications. So oh, so let me open my VS Code. I'm going to share that screen to you guys pretty soon. Pretty soon. Okay. Let me stop sharing and let me share. Okay. So we are finally here. Um, Just give me some time to clear out this. Okay, and I remember in our last class I talked about paystack, right? Not working out the way we wanted. And um that was so I think what happens with render is that render doesn't give you that or it doesn't log out allow you to log out information about what is happening on your um back end. Okay, so that's why even when the what's it being called, the webhook came back, we didn't see it, we couldn't see it. So we might as well be working. So the simple thing I could do, the simple thing I can do is, although this is kind of funny, the very simple thing to do to help ourselves would be to email this to ourselves, or for me to email the request body to myself. It's kind of funny for me to do that. Yeah, that's the only option I have, right? But anything to actually teach you guys what to do, I'll have to do it. So what did I say? Mail options. Okay. Where is this send mail coming from? Oh, really? Nope, 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 nope. Not this one actually. So this is supposed to come from utility.email. I don't know if that is the one I chose. Send email. This utility. Mhm. So let me check. Send email. Oh, okay, 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 okay. I think I get. So I'm supposed to call it transporter. So let's come back here. Instead of, hmm? Oh, okay, I understand what is going on. I understand what is going on. I understand what is going on. So this would be for me to say to me, which is then subject would be they start webhook, and then the I like to send it as HTML. I like sending my stuff as HTML. So I'll just simply say uh so you rather want to do this, you'd say JSON dot stringify, then you say req dot body. Because if you don't stringify it, you're on your own. So we can do this. Oh, sorry. So we can do this, and then you can say git add git commit fix, say um webhook email. Although this is not even a fix, I don't even know what to call this. I don't know what to call this. Is not a fix actually. Whatever, please. So, but if that's not a fix, I don't even know what to call it. Maybe I should call it Shakara. One more. Well, so let me make that push. So while that is pushing, I should be able to come to my browser and visit that space. What's it's called again? Render.com. So I'm going over to render.com. Okay. So let me reshare my screen. Let me reshare my screen. Let me reshare my screen. Please, 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 please. Okay. Hey, hey. Deploy failed. This was that day. So let me try to deploy latest commit again. And let's see. Then anyways, while that is going on, let me try to first create that what's being called. Let me try to initialize payment from VS Code. Oh, it's going to disconnect. It's not going to connect to the server, to the database, because, wow. Anyways, I don't think I'm trying to save anything. Okay, so while that is loading, I've created a transaction. So now, what really happens? What really happens in real life is you will, if you're using Paystack and you're using it in this manner, you create the order on the back end, but the order will be marked as not paid. You understand? Then when a webhook comes, the webhook would come and you use that webhook to validate that order, and as in mark that order as being paid for. As a backend developer, that's what you're going to do. So there's still some other things for us to. So let's see. Let's pay this 3,300. I'll be 3,000. Then, well, let me check my email. Hmm. So let's see, let's see, let's see. Hmm. So why he didn't send the email? Hmm, He didn't send the email. And why is that so? So this is how the receipt will look like. This is how the receipt will look like. Ah, wait. So wait, there's something I noticed. I didn't add a from when I was sending this email, right? I didn't add a from. If you notice, let's go back. So let me make another one. Let me make another payment link. So hmm. So this guy is not allowing us to log things out is actually another thing. Oh, wait, oh, what am I seeing here? So initialize payment. Uh, Sorry, let me show you what I'm doing. It's since it printed that, then it's possible that it could print what I actually want. So I'm here. What I'm doing is I'm saying payment response. Push that immediately. Hmm. You're nothing. So let's just wait. Let's just wait. Let's just wait. This one will actually work. I'm very, very sure about it. Okay. Uploading build successful. So let's just wait. Um, uh, okay. So I already made the payments, whatever the payments link. Okay. Success. Let's come back here. Let's come back to the logs. Okay, then let me check my email. Wow. This showed initialized payments, initialized payments. So, ah, so I must have to trace that issue. Actually, I must have to trace it as to why it's not also sending it to my email. Because if it's not printing it here, it should at least send it to my email. So you can just create a free account here. For people not in Nigeria, if you're not, if you can't have access to Paystack or something in your country, you can try Flutterwave or um I think Momo also has this, but it's not it might not be exactly the way this one works, but it's similar. They'll provide you with keys, they'll provide you with the documentation on how to pay, how to make payment and the rest. Paste that, please. I'm on my knees. Okay. Okay. So this is what I was looking for actually. Paystack response, the status is true, the authorization URL is being created, and this is it, the access code, the reference. So what you can do is this access code, it ends at 2BK, right? 2BK. So what you can do is when you can first the flow, right? Remember that you send a request to Paystack and Paystack sends you back an access code, right? Which we can see here. They send back, like when we made our request. Let us go back to Postman. Let me show you what I meant. Sorry, to VS Code. Let me show you what I meant. So when you tried to initialize payment, right? You send this request to, where is it? Remember, you first sent this request. Where is it? Okay, yeah. This request to initialize payment. Right? You send this request to initialize payment, and okay. Oh, I see. You sent this request to make payment, right? Now, what you would do is when you send this request and then the response comes with the access code, you can save the access code with that order that was being made. You understand? You save this access code, like you add it to, let's say maybe if it is an order that somebody is paying for, you save this access code with the order so that when a webhook comes back, you can then use the access. You can say, okay, any product that has this access code should be marked as being paid. Do you get on the back end? So this is what I'm even trying to, or this is what I'm trying to get. So I'll say webhook response. Uh, let's come back here. Okay. Okay. So the first to do would be to install sockets.io. So while that's going on, let me go and tell others to join again. Okay. Not even really that. It's just two persons that dropped off. Okay. So we've been able to install that, and installing socket.io. Now remember that socket.io needs a server to run on, and your backend also needs a server to run on. So, and both of them, you can't spin two servers up at the same time, except they are going to run on different ports. So that's when you can maybe spin up two servers. But then, what's the need spinning up two servers when you can just spin up one and use that one for what you want to do, right? So if you want to configure this, now you will need to import an HTTP server. Okay, that HTTP server is going to manage your IO and your Express these same platforms at the same time. Okay, so this is how you would configure it. Then you'd say const that should be equals to require what's it being called, HTTP. Yeah, so that will be the server. Then here you say HTTP server should be equals to new is it new server? It's sorry, is going to be equals to require HTTP. What you would bring out of here is create server, not server itself. Then you bring out from sockets.io you bring out or the structure server. Yeah, I wanted to do it the other way around by mistake. So you first create that server, then you say const IO server should be equals to. Now this place, wait, let me see. This server you want to create now would be this your Express server. Okay. Oh, sorry, not Express server, your app. That's what you want to write in there. Then here you say new server, and then this would be this HTTP server here. Okay, then the next thing you want to do is so first, what have we done? We've created an app server, then we've passed that app, and we've created an Express app server, right? Using HTTP. Then we pass the instance of that server to sockets.io. And socket.io has it has a class that you can use to create a server. So we passed in this, yeah. So what we are simply trying to say is, oh, we are using HTTP to create the server, and we want sockets.io to be able to run this Express server alongside spinning up its own server at the same time. So so now this IO server is what we will then use to start our project and everything. So the only thing that gets to change now is how you spin up your server. Okay, so instead of saying app.listing, you want to say, what's it being called? You want to say IO server dot listen, and then you want to listen on, it's still the same thing. You want to listen on ports 3000, then you want to do the same thing you did here. So now we are not using app because it's not just Express. Now you want to use Express and at the same time use sockets.io, right? So that's why, that's the reason for this reconfiguration here. Is there anybody that's confused at this point? Hello? Anybody confused? Okay, so nobody is actually confused at this point. Everybody's following. So then let's continue. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to create that, should I say, where you can listen to connections. Okay, so of course, when people are trying to connect to your server has to listen to their connection to even acknowledge that, okay, they are trying to connect. So how do we do that? So you would want to write anywhere around here, anywhere at all. You can write this IO server. Should I do it here? Okay, let me do it under here. So I'll say IO server dot on. So this would be on connection. Then this on connection is used to listen to a new connection. So once there's a new connection, right, you'll be able to get that event. So now I also forgot to say that the sockets.io is event based. So a connection is an event, a disconnection is an event, everything is an event actually. So I'm trying to open the chat to see. Okay, that's all. Okay, so once you do that, right, you can then write sockets here. Now, this sockets, right, this sockets argument here represents everything that has to do with that connection that the person is trying to establish. So now let's take, for example, the front end is trying to, let me give you a classic example. When you come online, let's say on WhatsApp, right? How does WhatsApp know that you are online, and it then notifies every other person that, oh, this particular person is online, right? What happens is when you come online, right, when you open your WhatsApp app, as you open your WhatsApp app, your WhatsApp tries to establish a connection with a server, right? I'm not trying to say WhatsApp uses socket.io. It might not, it might be using something else, but the architecture is quite similar. It makes that connection to a server, and once it makes that connection to the server then looks for everybody that is your friend. That means everybody that you have a chat with. It looks for all those people, and then it emits an event to them telling them that you are online. Okay, so you can do this. So on connection, depending on what you want to do, for example, I could say console.log welcome, and I'll say sockets dot ID. So this is what will happen each time anybody tries to connect with socket.io. It will just log out this message. Then what if you disconnect? What if you then, let's say you disconnect from socket.io, right? And we want to do something. Maybe we want to say, oh, when you disconnect, this is what should happen. This is what should happen. You should tell these users that you're offline and the rest. Then we inside here, we want to listen to, we'll say socket dot on. Then we'll listen to the disconnect event. Okay, so this connection here you're seeing, right, is an event, right? Disconnect too is an event. So once you disconnect, you trigger this event. So anywhere you're seeing on is actually an event, right? Adds a listener function as an event. So this is the event name, and this is what will happen when this event occurs. So we then say so this one has a reason why you're disconnecting, right? But it's not necessary for you to put the reason. The reason might be maybe because of network or because of maybe an error or something. But then at the end, what you might want to do is, let's just say for now, you just want to console the log goodbye, and then we say sockets.id. So now you might be wondering, why am I using sockets.id here and sockets.id here? So what happens is, for sockets.io to be able to distinguish the different connections made to it, sockets.io assigns an ID to each connection. So if 5 people are connecting at the same time, those 5 people are assigned a random ID. Then if one person disconnects, that ID is invalidated, right? Then if that person connects again, then another ID might be assigned to that person. Okay, so that makes it easy for us to know who is connecting and who we need to send a request or a response to or an event to. Okay, and remember that when we're doing front end, we didn't really, the back end, apart from the database, right? The back end didn't really give anybody an ID so they can communicate with that person directly without them making a request. But here, because we want to distinguish people, we give them an ID. So let's try out what we've done so far, right? Let's spin up our server. npm run dev. And then let's see, please come up. And it's coming up. Then while that is going on, let me launch Postman. I would have launched Postman ever since. So let me launch Postman, and here in what's it been called? Linux, right? I didn't create the icon for launching Postman, so I have to run it as a command to actually launch. Okay. So now, what can happen here, it could be amazing. Now, what you can do in this place is you can create an array of objects that should denote the user trying to connect and the user's ID. Okay, like the user's ID that socket.io gave and the user's backend ID. Okay, you can actually do that. You can save their IDs on what is being called. You can save their IDs on Redis, right? You can create is it group they called it? You can create a group. I think it's group that is being called. You can create a group using the person's ID and use that group to be emitting events and the rest. That one is totally up to you. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Let's just test this out, what we've done so far. Let's just test it out and see. Let's see how we can do this with Postman. So let me come back here. Let me share my Postman screen to you guys. I hope I'm not sharing. Oh, no. Sorry, not allowed to share that. Okay, I'll share my Postman screen very soon. Very soon. Okay, let me share it now. All right, we are here. Then, so now I want to test what I just did. I'll come here and click on new. You see socket, WebSocket, socket.io. I'll choose sockets.io. Okay. And I'm waiting for it to load actually. Sockets.io. Please load, please load. Okay, yeah. And for some funny reason, you don't need to add HTTP or HTTPS to the URL. So our backend is running on what port? 3000. So I'll say localhost to port 3000. Then I'll try to connect. Okay, so what is it saying? It could not connect to that unexpected server response. Okay. So let me see if I do this. The funny thing is I'm not receiving any log on the server. Ah, okay. So why isn't it connecting? Why isn't it connecting? Ah, so what is it saying? Upgrade WebSocket. I don't know if this is in the settings. I don't know if this is in the settings. Let me see. Oh, let me see. Oh, let me check the version actually. Which version am I actually using? Socket. I'm using version 4.1. Okay. Okay. Using version 4.8.1. Let me see. Is it because I didn't add HTTP? Wow. Oh, didn't I save? Oh, can you imagine? I didn't actually save my work on Postman. I didn't save my work. Sorry, that's my bad. My bad. Sorry. I didn't save my work on Postman. Wow. Okay. Sorry about that. So I didn't save my work on Postman. I just went back to app.js and then Control S. Then I came back and clicked connect. So it connected. So we've been able to connect, and then let's go back to um post, or sorry, to our VS Code and see what is going on. Okay. So you see, it's now saying welcome, and you see what it's showing here. Welcome ZFE, what. You see, right? Welcome, and then this. So once we disconnect, so I'm going back to Postman to click disconnect. Did you see? Goodbye, and then the same ID. If I try to connect again, it assigns another ID to me, right? And if I try to disconnect, it disconnects that particular ID. Can you see that? Can you guys see that? Can you guys see? Yeah. So sockets.io generates random ID per connection, right? So if there are 5 people that are connecting, those 5 people will be getting 5 random IDs. Okay. So this is what you can do. Now, having these IDs alone, right, is not enough. Okay. Although let's just do something. Let's just do something. Let's do you know we can actually use this to create a chart, but we can use this to create a chart, right? But then this is the issue with this. The problem with this is that you don't know who you're chatting with exactly, because the only thing you know about them is this ID. You don't know who they are, you don't know their first name, you don't know their email, you don't know their ID on the database, so you can even update them, right? And we'll see how we can actually create something that would make sense for us to use, right? But for now, let's see. We have socket.id, we have socket.id. What people like doing popularly, it's would say, although me I don't like doing it, would be to have something like connections. Connections would be an array. Then per connection, you might want to say I think you can even remove this from here. So per connection, you might want to say connections.push, right? So this is like you being able to track the number of, for example, if you're asked how many people are online, you should use this array of connections to be able to know, oh, this is the number of people that are online, this is the number of people that are offline, and the rest, right? And this is just temporary. The best thing to do most times would be to use something like Redis. So Redis is an in-memory um uh an in-memory database. So in-memory in the sense that it stores this array of the users on your RAM, right? Compared to storing it on your maybe on a database. So now, why is it stored on a RAM? Because you cannot be connected forever, right? And most times you might connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect. Like you might be connecting and disconnecting randomly and frequently, which would be a lot of writes and rewrites and deletes on the database, maybe to save that you're connected on the database, then to go and delete that, or if it's to update on the database that you are connected, maybe to update your maybe on your profile, you have something like maybe it's online, it will update it to true when you're connected. Then once you disconnect, it now goes to update it to false. That rewrite is actually very expensive, especially if you're dealing with hosting. Let's say, for example, Mongo Atlas, that at a point Mongo Atlas will start charging you per request. They say, oh, if you make a post request, we charge you 0.000 something dollars. If you make a get request, we charge you 0.0 something 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 dollars. Right? At the end of the day, you might pay dearly for saving directly on your database. So what's the best way to save? Is to use something like Redis. And I'm not going to teach you. You can actually, Redis is very simple. You can actually learn Redis. Redis is more like the way we are using MongoDB. You have a command to store, you have a command to retrieve, right? And the rest. So it's something you can actually do on your own. I've used Redis before, but yeah, this is like beginner stage, so you shouldn't really bother about using it that much. So we can do this. We can say push that to sockets.io. Then at the end of the day, we can say so I should change this to a let so that I can reassign it. So I could say let's sorry, I would say connections should be equals to connections dot filter. Say maybe connection where the connection is not equals to socket.id. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying I think I should remove this sidebar. So what I'm doing is I'm saying connection.filter. So per each connection, what is going to happen is as this filter is running, it's going to check is the connection ID the same as the socket ID. If it's not the same, return it to this new array we are making, right? If then the connection is equals to the socket.id that I just disconnected, don't return it to the connection. So in a way, this is like deleting. So we can do something like this. We can say console.log connections.length users connected, right? We can also do the same thing when someone disconnects. So after disconnecting, we do that, right? Let me just go back to Postman and click connect. So one user connected, plurality. So that's why they usually like putting this in brackets, right? Or you can actually check the length. You can say if length is 1, it should be user. If length is 2, it should be users. That's totally up to you. That's totally up to you. And another disadvantage of doing this is that once your server restarts, everything goes back to 0. Although, yeah, well, that's expected because everybody will have to disconnect and reconnect. Okay, so if I try connecting again, 1 user connected. If I click on disconnect on Postman, 0 users connected at the end of the day. So let me try to, on Postman, let's come back to Postman. Let me try to make 2 users. Let me try to create 2 users. So, I'll save this as what? I'll save this as user 1. Or where is it? So I'll save this in a new collection. I'll call it sockets.io test. I'll save it there. I'll call this test. I'll call this user 1. And then I'll just duplicate this and I'll call this user 2. Okay. And so I want it that when user 1 connects, right, there should be an event sent to everybody that this particular user is connected, right? Now, another feature of sockets.io is that you can listen for a particular kind of event. Like, so as a front end, right, and back end, for example, now, if you notice, back end is listening to a connection event and a disconnection event. The same way back end can listen to different types of events, front end can also listen to a kind of event. Okay, so I can actually create the event that I want to listen to. So I could say, so what do I want to listen to? So I want to listen to an event that should happen if any other user connects. So the name of that event would be, I could name it anything I want, right? This is a totally random. I could say new user connected, and then I'll listen to that event, right? And I'll also do the same thing to this one. I would come here and create event. I'll say new user connected. On front end, if you want to do this thing, what you will do is you write, if it's socket you're using on front end, you write socket.on. Then in that bracket, you now write new user connected. Then you write the action you want to take once that event is triggered. So we'll do that, right? We'll do that, and let's come back to VS Code. Let's come back to VS Code and what do we do? We want to emit, right? So I could say sockets socket.emit. Then I would say what's the name of the event again? New connected users. So if we check what does emit does, so it emits to this client. Okay. So you can emit that event, and then I'll just the function here. Oh wait, am I supposed to put a function? Oh, okay, so I could just rather than say connections, something like that, right? So I'm saying once you connect, I want to tell other people the number of connections that has been made. So let's go back to Postman and let's see how that works. So this first person connects, and that new connection has been emitted even to me, right? I get the connection. Then let me try with this second user to connect, because so why this person even received it in the first place is he is also listening to the connected users. He's also listening to it. That's why he gets that connection, or he gets that event. Then I could then say for this second user, now do you see? Now I'm getting that, oh, these are the two users that are connected, me and someone else, right? In fact, this is the someone else because the user 1 is AAB, this user 1 when he connected. Then user 2 is me plus the person I pushed. Sorry, the other user plus me. This is my own ID. Then let's see how we can send messages to each other. Abi, let's see how we can send messages to each other. So let's come back to Postman. Let's see. So now we can do this. So we can say socket dot so let me check their documentation to remember, because right now I can't remember it. Let me share my screen for us to go there together and see. Okay. And just wait. Let me take this to socket.io. Socket. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen yet. Sorry about that. Okay. Socket.io, sockets.io, sockets.io. Okay. So let's see, why is that actually taking time to connect? So, all right, sockets.io waiting to connect. Okay, so let's go back to the documentation. Bidirectional. So, yeah. So you emit, then here on the event, you want to event, and then whatever whatever you're sending here. So this is how the whole thing works. So I think I should just explain using this diagram. You emit, so when a server emits an event, right, with an event name, the client can pick that event as far as it's connected, right? And then vice versa. So the server can listen to an event, and then the front end, right, or the client can emit that event also. So it's bi-directional. Then I remember I talked about sockets.id, which we saw. So each new connection is assigned a 20 random character identifier, is synced to the value on the client side. So yeah, so the client side and the back end has the same. Then so let's see. So apart from just on connection, we have on packet create, on drain, on close, and the others. Okay. So sockets dot username equals username. Okay. So on set username, you can actually set a username middlewares, and the rest. So let's see how we can actually, so this disconnect, and I said there is a reason for disconnection. I think I mentioned that. So when you say on something, so let's come back to our let's come back to our code. So you could say something like socket dot on, then maybe say send message, something like that. Right? You might want to do this. You might want to say message, right? And then this message can be an object. So then you can then say socket dot to. Then I'll say message dot ID. And then I'll say dot emit. Oh, sorry, not emit, dot send. Then I'll say maybe message dot message. Okay, so what I'm doing now is once you send a message, once you emit that send a message, right? Once you emit that event to the browser, to the back end, of course, that event you're emitting would come with an object, right? So I'm passing that object to a callback function, and then of course the message object should contain an ID and a message. So the ID will be who you're sending it to. Then the message itself will be the message you're sending. Okay. So let's save this and see how that can work. Let's come back to um uh Postman, and let's test what we've done so far. Okay. So I'll connect and I'll save this as I'll just save it as my ID. Just save that as my ID. So remember it ends at AAAB. So let's connect user 2. And this is user 2's ID, right? So we'll say my ID. I'm just saving it as description, just a description, right? Now, I want to send a message from user. So this is this user's ID, right? I want it to send a message from user 1 to user 2. Okay. I want to do that, and this is how I can do it. So the event name is what I'll put here. Remember that the event name I chose there was send message. So I'll say send message. That's the event name. Then the message I want to send, the message I want to send now, and the message I want to send is going to be an object. Remember that we had message.id and message.message. So I'll then put, now remember, this is, now it's the format is thinking you want to write this message is in text format. Remember to change this to JSON. Remember, so that you avoid stories that touch when you're debugging. So you say ID. The ID should be the ID of the recipient you want to send that message to. Then the message itself. Hello, how are you? Then you'd send a message. What happened? It disconnected. So let's see. This also disconnected. So something happened actually. The server has crashed and it's saying something. Okay, so it's saying that let's go back to the browser. Now let's go back to the server. It's saying that send is not a function. Okay. So it's saying send is not a function. So I think instead of send, what we have is emit. I'm not sure there's any send here. Okay, so there's emit rather than send. Okay, so which means now, okay, let's see. Now, which means as I'm emitting this message, right, I also need to listen. The two parties need to listen to this event also. Both parties need to listen to that event. So let's come back here. So anytime you're emitting, wait, is there something I missed? Is there something I missed? Sorry. Let's come back here. I don't just want to emit the message. I want to emit the event itself and the message. I want to emit the event and the message also. So let's come back here. Let's come back here. I'll also add that event here. I'll also add that event here and listen to it in user one. Come here, add that event also here and listen to it. Now, I listen to that. So let me change this again. That's my new ID there. Then I come to user two, right? And I try to connect him. Remember, this user is what? ZAAAB. Okay. Let's try to connect. So this is me. This is this other user. Okay. Right. Now, I want user one to send user two a message. So I'll copy this ID. I'll come to user one. I'll come to message. Then I'll just change that alone. And then I'll send that message. Okay. So what happens here? I also receive that message. Okay. This user receives the message, right? This user receives the hello, how are you? But then I also receive the message. So why do I also receive the message? Okay. Why do I also? I think it's because I'm using emit. Because emit tends to want to send it to everybody. So socket dot to dot emit. Okay, wait. See, there's something I want to try out. Just bear with me. I want to try out something to see. And I would explain what I just did. I'll explain what I just did. Okay, so that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. So so let's see socket dot to please just give me a little bit of moments, a little. Okay, let's come back to the documentation because that's where we can actually see what's going on. So I'm not expecting to receive the um the message back. I wasn't expecting to receive it. Uh, okay, so let's see. Let's go over to their events part. So emitting events, listening to events. So this is where we're actually going to see what you're looking for. So once we listen to an event, the argument comes, which is the content of the event. Then we can use that to do whatever I want to do. And this is how we do it on the server. We say socket.this, that, and then that's emitting events. Okay, socket.emit this and that. Okay, okay. Uh, so I oh, okay. So rooms is where you use dot to. Okay, okay, okay. So I remember. Let's come back here. Let's come back here. So this is what I usually do, which I cannot remember. What I do is rather than even push it here and do all these things, I just simply say um so let me just remove everything that has to do with these connections. Let me remove everything that has to do with that connections. Then I'll just simply say socket.join. This is what I usually do. Socket.join, and then I'll add that socket ID. I'll just add that socket.id so that when I want to broadcast a message, when I want to send a message, right? I just know that it's going to that particular socket.id. And also I don't need to specify this part again if I'm doing this. I don't need to specify the event anymore. Okay. Wait, I'll explain. Let's go over to VS Code. I'll explain what I'm trying to do very soon. Just give it a bit of time. So let's try connecting again. And I don't know what I'm connecting as. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I mistakenly crashed the backend server. So let me copy who is connecting. User one. I'll just save it here as this user one's ID because I'm logging it out actually. So I'll save it there and I'll go to user two. I'll connect, then I'll save his ID. And then I want to try to send a message to user one. So, sorry, to user two. I want user one to send a message to user two. So I'll try that. Okay. Actually, it doesn't, this doesn't mean that I'm the one getting that message. Right? I think this shows that I am the one emitting it, not the one receiving it. You guys get? This doesn't mean I am the one that is receiving the message. This arrow up shows that is emitting that event, is not receiving it. Meanwhile, user two doesn't get it. Oh, and that's because user two is not even listening to. Okay, wow. Sorry. I still need to add that send message because I'm not using the group. I'll explain this thing actually. What I did before was actually correct. Sorry. What I did the first time was actually correct. Okay? Sorry about that. What I did the first time was correct, and I'll explain. Where is it? It's user two. So I want user one to send a message to user two, right? I'll just put this and click send. So it's going out, and then user two receives it. User two receives it as an incoming event. Okay, this is correct. So let me try to see if I just added random stuff and I tried to send that message. Do you see that user two doesn't receive it? Hello, user two doesn't receive that second message. Okay, let me change this to hello, how are you doing? And I send it. So this is just a log of what I'm doing. It's not really that. So the user two doesn't receive it because that's not user two's ID. But once I make this user two's ID, I think it stops at D, and I send it, you'd see that user two now has, or user two now gets that broadcast, or sorry, that message that was sent directly to him. Does it make any sense? I hope you guys are following. I actually confused myself. I thought what I was doing the first time was wrong. Meanwhile, it was correct. Any question? So let's come back to our code and see what I actually did. What I did there was actually correct. Sometimes your brain plays around with you to tell you, how does this thing really look correct? Correct yourself and the rest. So what I just did was, of course, when you connect, it just logs out what you connect, then or your ID, right? Then what I did was, when the back end receives a send message event, that's from anybody, once it receives the send message event, it gets that event, You understand? Then, sorry about that. It gets that send message event, and then this callback will get whatever you're sending as your from your front end or from the client, right? It will be passed to that callback as whatever you call it here, whether I call it message, whether I call it event, whether I call it it will be passed into this callback as. So even if you don't want to use a callback, if you just write console.log message, it will just log out the message. If you put the message in an object, it will be there like that, right? But the best is because you want something to happen when this event occurs, right? You can use a callback. See, we're already using callbacks. So the message will be passed in here. And then remember that the message is an object. So the message contains the ID of who you're sending the message to. And then the message also contains the message itself, which you want to send to that person. Do you see? So once it comes in here, we check that we want to send to this ID. And this ID has to be an ID that is connected. If not, that person will not receive the message. So two things. For you to receive the message, you have to be connected to the server. That's number one. And number two, you should be listening to the events that has to do with that particular message. You understand? In case they want to send it to you directly. For it, so if I want to send this message, right, to everybody, I'll just say socket.emit. Socket.emit will just send it to everybody. Everybody, oh, I'm saying hello, I'm saying hi, I'm like, it will just send it to everybody. But in the case where you want to send it to a particular person, you understand? To a particular person, that's when you want to use socket.to, then the ID of the person you want to send the message to, then this. Then also you can create groups, right? So that's that group thing, right, that you saw there. When you you can create a group. So you can say group.join, and then anybody that is in that group, right? Or in, yeah, group or channel, you can send a message to all of them at the same time. So you can read Postman's documentation to do that. You can, so you can so let me explain it again. You can create a group, right? So, or let's say a channel. So a channel is just like a random name you give where you're adding a lot of people. So you can join, you can make it that people join a particular channel, and then you emit events to them, and then all of them will receive the event at the same time. But this, don't worry about this particular, in fact, worry about it. Let's do it. Okay, so this is what I mean. If you don't want to do it this way I just did it, right? There is still another way to do it. You can say socket.join, socket.id, right? And then you can say socket.to. In fact, there's no much difference between both actually, because you will still be using this message also, right? But the only difference is that if you're using socket.join and you're using you want to emit, you don't really need to specify the event anymore, because anybody that has that socket or whatever name here you're using to send the message will receive it. So this is what I mean. So now let's take, for example, let me save this, and then let's go back to VS or to Postman. So let me connect here, user one. Let me go to user two and connect. Then let me come back and copy user two's ID. Then let me come back to user one. Then I'll just do the same thing. Hi, how are you doing? Send it, come back here. Oh, user two doesn't actually receive it. So let me check why. Join the socket.id, message.id.emit. Okay. Uh, see if it's the ID that I didn't copy correctly. Is it the ID? This wasn't supposed to. Okay. Send a message, okay. Ah, would this second person break? So let me do this. Let me do that to see if the second person should be listening on message. Ah, okay. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing something wrongly. I'm doing something wrongly. We'll check this out in the next class. So let's see how we can actually identify people that you want to send message on, for example. So instead of you just sending messages to IDs alone, like IDs that socket.io generates for you, right? Why don't we make it possible to send it to people, like you know that okay, this is the person you're actually sending this message to, and the rest. And then how can we actually do that? So which means we will need to create the same way we have a middleware, right? On Express, right? We need to create a middleware too on sockets.io that's going to enable us send messages. So this is how we can actually do that. Let's come back here. Where is it? Sample backend. This is how we can actually do that, right? The same way we have app.use, right? On Express, we also have ioserver.use. And then this ioserver takes in a callback function, and then it's going to take in sockets and a next. So sockets, and then it's going to take in a next. I think the next should be, okay, see it here. And it's going to take a next. Okay, so you say sockets and a next. So this next is going to call this part once it's being done. Then what you want to do is you want to get the sockets.io authorization header, right? So this is how you can get that. You say const auth should be equals to socket dot handshake dot headers dot authorization. So the same way you pass authorization in your request, your HTTP request, your normal request, you can also do that same way here, right? Then you might want to do the same thing we did. You would say auth const, you'd say type and token equals to auth dot split, and you want to split by space, and you would say no, just do it that way. So splitting by space, the first one at the index of 0 will be the type, and then the second one will be the token. Okay, then let's try to log in. Let's try to log in as Victor, Peter, and whatever. Okay, it's sending a 404, all right? What's going on? So let's see, forward slash auth forward slash register and forward slash login. Wow. Wait, am I sending this request to somewhere else? Server is running at 3000. Oh, okay. I think I actually know why. I think I actually know why. So this is what happens, right? I think pause is actually necessary. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually allowing anything to actually make the request. So we can have get post put patch delete. So what's cost is another big topic on its own. So what is cost? So cost is you can think of it as a technology used to control how two different platforms or two different services running on different ports on different running on different ports, how they should share their data. So I can restrict my backend to only responding to a particular service that sends a request to it. But this asterisk means it should be able to accept requests from any service that sends it. So let's see, let me try to log in again. Okay. What's actually going on? So that's what I would use to know if it's even sending it there. Okay. So it's not even sending it, which means it's not, that's why it's not printing. So I think, I don't know if that's, what's really going on. Let me come back here. Yeah, so someone is asking, did I save? Yes, I actually saved. Uh, so we have app is equals to express, we have create server app, we have IO server is equals to new server. And then we pass our HTTP server there. Then what else did we do? Ah, it's quite funny. So, which means there is a problem with how this is being registered actually. So there's a server from socket.io, this create server from HTTP, create server from HTTP. Then what else am I supposed to do here? What else am I supposed to do? Uh, let's see. IO, okay. Hmm. So then, this is quite strange. The only way I could know if my server is still working is for me to do a ping. So you guys will encounter this also in the future. I'm not praying for you. It's not a prayer actually, but it's something that you guys might come across. Okay, I agree. There is a misconfiguration here. If I'm not sure, there should be a misconfiguration somewhere here. So let's come back here. Let's come back here. Let's go to the initialization on the server. So you install sockets.io, and then the next thing you want to do is you would say this io dot, okay, this is for you. Okay, so wait. So let's see. There's a place for initialization, right? There's a place for initialization with HTTPS. There's a place with Express, which I'm okay, this is what I'm looking for with Express. So we said create server from HTTP, server from sockets.io this. Then we said create server here. Then of course we can now with this we can still use. So I said HTTP server.listen, if I'm not mistaken, right? Create server is coming from HTTP, which is what I did. Server is coming from sockets.io, which is what I did. This create server, new server, HTTP server, and then the options. And then we said on connection sockets, HTTP server. Oh, okay. I think I've seen the issue. Right, I've seen the issue. I've seen the issue, guys. Wow. Remember that at this bottom, I did io-server.listen. It was not supposed to be io-server.listen. It's supposed to be me spinning up this HTTP server.listen, not io-server. io-server.listen is going to only spin up this io server. Meanwhile, it's supposed to be HTTP server.listen. So, because if you look at the documentation we just looked at, right? In fact, let's go back to the documentation so that we would understand what actually happened. So if you look at this documentation, right? After creating a new server here, right? They did not say io.listen. They did not say io.listen. Rather, they said HTTP server, which is the create server we use, HTTP server.listen, right? And coming back to our code, what did we do? We wrote HTTP server here, we wrote IO server, HTTP server, IO server, but when we are coming to spin up the back end, right, we now said IO server.listen. Instead, we were supposed to say HTTP server.listen. That's the reason why it didn't. So now it didn't even initialize, Express. It just initialized sockets.io alone, which now started giving us that issue. So if we come back here, if we do ping, we should see pong. If we did login, right? If we did login, we should now see it work as expected. So that's one of the powerful use of documentation. If you know how to use your documentation well, you should be able to solve bugs easily, right? So if you're someone that hates reading documentation, well, that's all you should stop hating to read documentation. So we've created this right, and I've created this middleware. Let me just call next so that it will continue to connect that person. I'll just call next there. Then I'll just say console.log. I'll say type token. I hope you guys are following, right? I hope you guys are following. What I want to do now is I want to use this token and I want to pass it to sockets.io, right? So that it is going to show the person. It's going to show this type and the token. So let's come back to, let me save. Then let's come back here. Let's come back here and this is how to pass it. So let me use user one, for example. You come to headers. You come to headers and then you create an authorization. You say authorization should be bearer and then should be the value of that token. Okay, so when you do that, you connect. Now let's go back to, it's connected, right? Let's go back to our code to see what is going on. Okay, so now let's expand this. You see, from the middleware we just created, you see that it's saying the type is bearer, which is this type of bearer. Then the token is the token that was sent. So now we can actually use this to do what we would normally do, right? So what we normally do, we can even go to our middleware and copy out what we wrote. So where is our middleware? We want to check if you're logged in. So we can just come here. For that. So we can come here and actually do the same thing we did. So just copy this thing here. In fact, we can copy everything basically. No, not everything. Don't mind me. So we can say if type is equals to type dot to local lowercase is equals to bearer. Then we want to verify, right? We want to verify. So we come here, we say const JSON web token should be equals to require JSON web token, right? And then so we verify that, and then we say, now what we are supposed to say here, we are not going to use request, right? We're not going to use request here. Rather, you would then say socket dot there are different ways to do it. You can just say socket dot decoded, right? You can say socket dot decoded, or you can say, now if you're using TypeScript, you want to do socket dot handshake dot auth dot credentials, or you can say dot decoded at this point. Dot decoded should be equals to that, so that you can easily get it from here. So if I want to print out, so then you can say else socket dot send sockets dot send what's this send? Let me mix this, send the message event. Okay, yeah, sockets dot send you need an auth. You need to supply an authorization token. You need to supply an authorization token. Okay. So let's try what we've done so far. So I'm just going to, let me go to Postman and connect. Okay, so it's crashing because connections was the connections array was commented. So I connect, right? And I forgot to do something. So I'll do this. I'll show you what I did. I'm doing. Do that. Okay, so let me try to connect again. It connects, and then let's come back to our browser, or let's come back to our VS Code and check something. So this is what I did, right? This is what I did here, right? Come back, let's come back here. What I did here was I logged out the decoded string, right? Remember that we decoded something. We decoded our token, and then we passed that decoded value to socket.handshake.auth.decoded. We passed it here. Now, what I'm just doing here is I'm just logging it out. So you see, we have the full user details. We have his user ID, we have his email, admin. So now what we can do is instead of pushing now another thing is there are two things we can actually do now. Instead of pushing the IDs, like the user ID. I know some of you would think, people that are sharp would say, okay, we should push the user ID and then the socket ID into the connection, which is, you can do that. It will actually work perfectly well. But what I like doing is, instead of that, I want to add the person that is being connected. I want to add this user ID to a channel so that I can send the messages directly to that user ID. How about that? So I guess that is even better. Okay, so I could then do this. I could then say, so I think the reason it didn't even add this socket dot this ID is already part of the live IDs that socket.io is using. So you can't, I don't think you can add a live ID after it has already been assigned or used by socket.io. So what I can do is I could just do something like this. I could say I could do something like this. I could say decoded should be equals to that value. Okay, and then I could say that this should be decoded dot user ID. Okay, so this is the second way of doing it. I think I should even try out the first way for you guys to see. The first way is doing something like this. I would say const, or sorry, connections. Remember, sorry, this is too big, right? In fact, I did it here. So instead of just saying connections dot push, I'll say connections dot, yeah, push, and then I'll say I'm pushing in user ID should be decoded dot user ID, and then socket ID should be socket dot ID. So that way, if I maybe want to send, if I send a if I want to send a message to a particular user, I can use his ID, right? In fact, I don't even, yeah, I can use his ID to send that message, right? So when I'm sending it, instead of this message.id will now become message.user.id. So when I'm sending it, it will just, you can come and look through this array to check for any user that has that user ID. Once you see that a user that has that user ID, you pick the socket's ID and send the message. I don't know if I'm speaking in tongues. I don't know if I'm speaking in tongues. But then, this is what I mean. So instead of having the message.id there, you can have message.user ID, right? And then you can do this, you can say const. No, so instead of this, right? Instead of this, we know that we are going to be sending message.user ID inside here. So we can do something like this. You can say user connection. User connection is equals to connections dot find, and then we want to find the connection where the connection dot id is equals to is the message dot user id. Once we find that person that has, so the next thing we want to do is maybe we want to check if we did not find any user connection. If we did not find any user connection, that's we didn't find any of them, then what we might want to do is you might want to return, or you might want to socket.send to the user that this person is not found or something, right? Depending on what you want to do. But then if that user is found, then we want to do user connection dot socket ID. User connection dot socket ID, which is going to send it to that particular user. So now, let me save this. If we want to send a message, right? So let me try to create, or let me see if I can, if there's another user I can use. So this is infreke.victor. So let's take, for example, that the first user is infreke.victor, right? Yeah, the first user is infreke.victor. So I want the second user to be Ukok Junior. Let me see, let me try to log in as beautiful. So I will copy this and then let's go to VS Code. Remember that the first user is infreke.victor, right? So this the user 2 now will be headers, we have authorization, error, and then that token, of course. So now, remember that, so let me go and pick the ID for user 1. Remember that let me pick the ID for user 2. Remember that I logged out, I'm console.logging the details of each person that is connected. So let's take, for example, this user 2, right? His user ID is this. Let's come back to user 1. So in this place that I want to emit my message, right? Well, so I think it was sent message before, right? Instead of putting an ID here, I'll change this to user ID. Now, this user ID I've put is the user ID of the person of this user 2 that I want to send the message to. So let me connect. Sorry, let me check. Okay, this one is also connected. So let me send that message. Background message has been sent. Oh wow. Is this user listening to that send message? Okay, this message has been sent to this particular user ID. Let me see what happened on this part. Oh, okay, I see what I did wrong. This is what I did wrong. Let me show you guys. Sorry, we are shuffling between VS Code and postman. So this is what I did wrong. Remember that when I'm saving connections, I save them as user ID and socket ID. Meanwhile, when I'm checking it here now, I'm now checking ID instead of user ID. So this is supposed to be user ID. Okay, that's supposed to be user ID, not dot ID. Okay, then let's come back here. Okay, so let's connect user 1. Let's connect user 2. Let's come back to user 1. Let's make user, let's make user 1 send a message to user 2. So we come back. What is going on? So let's see user ID. Let me see what I'm doing wrong. Connection.user ID. Connections.find connection.user ID is equals to message.user ID. Okay. Then if there's no connection, return. But if there's a connection, socket to that connection.socket ID emits. Okay. I didn't emit the send message. I didn't emit send message. Okay, and I'll show you. Let me connect again. So remember that everybody that needs to receive a message, whether it's being sent to you directly or it's being broadcasted, you need to listen to that event. So let me send that and then let's come back here. Finally. Hello, how are you doing? Can you see it? Can you see? And let's see. So this second user is CA5, right? So CA5, let me see, let me get the first user. Let me get the first user. So this first user, right? His own is his own user ID, right? Is user ID. Now remember all these things I'm doing, we've not saved it on the database yet though. This one is just playing we are just playing around. Then we'll say message. We'll say I'm fine. I'm fine. Then, of course, this is send message, right? So let's play around. So I'm fine. We send the user I'm fine. He checks his inbox. He sees I'm fine. He says, okay, how is your day going? He sends it. Bam. Then he sees it here that, okay, this person has responded. How is your day going? Now say, my day is going well. Send. Bam. You will see it. My day is going well. Then the next thing is, he sent me 2K now. He sends it. The user sees it and the user goes offline. Or the user says, drop account details. Maybe adds please self as a polite person. And then this other person looks at it and be like, bank, bank, account number, Victor. He sends it, and the second person will see it. Okay, don't. I'm actually playing at this point. Don't mind me. Now, this is something that some people do. Now, someone was telling me that companies like, for example, WhatsApp, that they just have backup servers that they just store messages as backup, but they're not really storing the message for you to, well, that might not be true, but you see that already, right? These two people are talking, right? And if they have, let's say if this was a mobile phone and the mobile phone is saving the chat of the two people, right? Then it will be easy to chat. Well, the only disadvantage is saving it only on the mobile phone means if one person is disconnected, the other person will not have the updates for offline messages. So which means there needs to be a server somewhere that saves the message so that even when, let's say, for example, I'm not online and you send a message to me, it's saved on that server, like as unread or delivered or something. Then if I come online, I get the update of that message, and then I can now respond to it. Okay, so now we've been able to establish bi-directional communication in this class. In the next class, we would see how we can save this to the database and create something like a chat, a full-fledged chat application where I can send you message, you can respond, and it will be saved on the database, right? And then we can get our chat history, for example, a list of all the messages we've been sending and the rest of all those things. This can be done by Firebase also. In case you don't want to use sockets.io, you can use something like Firebase or other things, other platforms to do it. So on that note, I'll stop here, and this would be the end of today's class. I hope you learned something, although I know in the way most of you might have been confused at the along the class because of that mix up with the server to spin up, right? But I hope you have also learned how to debug, right, by reading documentation and seeing what you can do with the documentation. Is there any question? Anybody has any question on what we've done so far? Any question? Any question? Anybody? So, you see the list of connections, right? So now, based on which user ID you're sending the message to, it will emit it to that particular user, except that particular user is not online. So which means what will definitely happen if you were writing a real life server. Let's just go back to VS Code briefly. I just want to show you one thing. What you might want to be writing if you're writing a real life stuff is that um a real life code basis. In this place, right? In here, right? Before you even start finding the connection and everything, you would want to save in a database. So you want to save the message on the database, right? You want to save that message on the database. And most times also you want to create a chat between them. So remember, what if what if you're sending a message to this person the first time? This is like the first time sending that person a message, right? So there's chats and there's message. So the chat is the list of people that you have that you're sending messages to, while the message is is going to be another collection. So you have a collection of chats, you have a collection of messages, right? And the rest. We will see how this actually works. So mainly you want to save this to the database. Then you want to check if the person that is receiving this message has a chat with this person sending the message. If the person doesn't have a chat, you create that chat also. So that's something to do here. So you save the message to the database before you emit it. Is there any question? Anybody has question? If you're confused on this particular video, just try watching it again. Then I'll show you something else you can do also. Now, you can also make it possible that instead of your users, right? This is something I personally like doing. instead of your user sending an event directly to socket.io, right? You can make it in such a way that a user sends a normal HTTP request to your backend, and then your backend in the controller emits an event to whoever is supposed to receive that event. I'll show you how to do that in the next class. So instead of the front end connecting to maybe socket.io to send events, the front end will just be connecting to socket.io just to receive events. Finish. Just to receive any event that has to do with it, but it might not necessarily need to connect to send events, right? But that is another architecture, right? Right. If you don't want to bother the front end too much with socket.io events, like emitting events, you can also use this method. Or you can use the other method which I'm talking about, which I'll show you in the next class. So in the absence of any question, we would call it a day today. Thank you very much for coming to today's class, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.